Hello and welcome to the birth of a new dimension. My name is Aurora. I'm a galactic walk-in and also a visionary artist. And for the next hour, I'm going to be teaching you about aspects of cosmic consciousness, your trajectory of consciousness, our entire trajectory of consciousness, because we are all connected through consciousness to the source. So if I were in my studio right now, or if I were teaching one of my online lessons for full spectrum humans, P.S., you should really check out my class. It is available through my website, flyingrainbowlasagne.com. You can find out all about it on the Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans tab. Basically, these are recorded lessons where I use not only my voice, like I do here on the radio each week, but also recorded whiteboard presentations where I draw diagrams on top of the artwork that I've already created. I don't make this artwork just because it's pretty. I don't make it just for self-indulgent reasons, because I find it fun or interesting, or I'm bored or I need to fill up my time. I do this artwork for very specific reasons. I am expressing a language that is an interdimensional language, and I'm expressing it in a methodical way in order to teach other people here this language so that we can have a common ground for communication with beings from vastly divergent realms. The process, this radio show is called Birth of a New Dimension. And the reason why I do this show and the information that I share here, the intention is to prepare Earth surface human consciousness, just like you prepare the soil in your garden early in the spring so that you can plant the seeds later on when it warms up in the summer. This is what we are doing right now, preparing human consciousness so that we can plant the seeds, and out of those seeds will grow this new dimension. And the new dimension is a coming together of the previously separate or divergent realms of the world of matter, like physical matter that we can touch and feel and sense with our five senses, as opposed to the non-physical world, the world of pure perception or thought or consciousness or awareness. Science also describes and understands this as the subatomic realm. Basically, when you take matter, stuff that you can touch with your hand and feel it, and chop it up into bits that get smaller and smaller and smaller, at a certain point, it doesn't act like matter anymore. It acts like a concept. It acts like an idea. It acts like a set of possibilities and probabilities of things that could happen but haven't actually happened yet. And these two realms are artificially created and artificially separated. They are separated by aspects of perception in exactly the same way that the cell membrane separates the intracellular goo from the extracellular goo, or the way that your epidermis, the skin that surrounds your whole physical body, is a barrier or a membrane that separates you and your definition of yourself as an individual from the environment or the context within which you reside. And your ego is also another one of these membranes or boundaries that separates you as consciousness from what you perceive as other. Consciousness that is not part of quote-unquote you. And all of these membranes serve a purpose. They're part of, we could call it evolution or development. Like we could, instead of evolution, tying it to the word of Darwinism, the idea of, like earning your status, and that's how you're allowed to move forward in time. The idea of evolution that projects go through different stages of development, not that you must earn your merit by being faster and stronger and meaner than everyone else around you, but that you are going through stages of development. So these membranes or these boundaries are effective tools to use during certain stages of development of consciousness. Like when we're talking about consciousness developing from being an undifferentiated pile of amino acids and chemicals just kind of swimming around in a soup. That's, before the cell membrane was created. When the cell membrane was created, this allowed for all sorts of new and interesting developments. New types of organisms could be made. A greater variety of organisms could arise because of that individuation. However, it doesn't mean that that's the last stop on the journey. That is one step on the journey. If I'm using the analogy of one of my paintings go through many layers, many processes. So you start off with a rough sketch, but you erase a lot and you draw new lines on top of your rough sketch. And then eventually you go into pen or ink or something more permanent. And then eventually you put down the pigment and do it in a way that is not erasable. But these stages of development are similar to what is happening with the development of consciousness. So one of the aspects of the stages of development, you're drawing these boundaries, separating thing from thing. And even the system of perception, biologically based in your eyeballs, your system of visual perception runs on the idea of thing versus thing, contrast and defining edges and perceiving light. The way that the cells in our retina work, they work by contrasting one area that has received a signal versus another area that has not received a signal. And you have two eyes. Most people have two eyes. Most humans have two eyes. If you have two eyes and you have binocular vision, it means that your system of visual perception is based upon comparing the information from one eye to the other eye that's just a few inches apart. And your brain does very subtle, instantaneous calculations. This eye versus this eye, I combine them together and I can see the rose that is outside of my window and interpret it as depth. I interpret the space around me as having depth because my brain is calculating the difference between my left eye and my right eye. And this is foundation level. This is intertwined on such a foundation level to our perception of the world that I have to bring it to your attention and talk about it and describe it so that we can get past it. So I have some new insight because I'm not the original inhabitant of this body. And so experiencing the world through this body, I've been able to really see how just aspects of this biology give rise to greater tendencies towards duality just by being in a body that functions in this way. So, okay, I come with information. I am, yes, an abstraction from another realm. And I came into this physical realm, and I'm not here as a vacationer or, just a person walking around not doing much. I come with a purpose. And with walk-ins, that is how it goes. It's not really something that you do just as a vacation. There's usually a purpose associated with it. So my own mission or my own purpose in being here is to share with everyone the concept of the flying rainbow lasagna shape. This shape resolves duality. So it is, I describe it as an interdimensional portal through which my consciousness traveled in order to come into this physical body. Another impeccable way of describing it is the flying rainbow lasagna is a vibration or a dance movement that you can apply to DNA. And in order to occupy this body that has DNA, I took the DNA, which are analogous to vibrating strings on a violin or a guitar, and I vibrated them with this particular song. Let's call this song The Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And I wrote this song. It's not something that anyone else has written before. It is an original combination of notes and vibrations and harmonic intervals. And I did it so that my consciousness would not die. The circumstances that prompted me to create this music were very dire. And I don't know, other walk-ins have described other experiences where either they didn't come into a body that died, they didn't have to have a near-death experience, or their transition was a lot smoother. So that has given me the understanding that just like physical human birth, some births are very beautiful, they are so peaceful, they're in a jacuzzi, Pachelbel's canon is playing, candles are lit. Some births are very tumultuous and they're like in the Lincoln Tunnel, you didn't even make it to the hospital, you had the baby in the cab on the way to the hospital. And my birth of being a walk-in was very similar to the second type of birth. Very tumultuous, very chaotic. It occurred during an interdimensional battle, and that battle is what killed the previous occupant of this physical body. And I am an abstraction. So this is where it's why I'm talking all about this today. If you are interpreting my explanation of myself as a non-terrestrial abstraction or a non-terrestrial consciousness, if you envision me as having a triangular head and large oval or teardrop-shaped eyes, and a long skinny neck, like the traditional symbol of what humans on Earth right now think of as extraterrestrial, you're being too literal. You're being erroneous simply from being too literal. The triangle face with the big round or oval or teardrop eyes, that is a symbol. Just like, on the restroom door, there's a outline of a stick figure that looks like either a male or a female humanoid. These are symbols. So, birth of a new dimension, we're preparing the garden so that we can actually meet consciousnesses that come from another world. If you're expecting those consciousnesses to look like your conception of an alien or an extraterrestrial, then you're not properly prepared. And all of this has to do with looking through your cultural filter of perception. So let's describe this. This is your anthropomorphic filter. It is a lens that is in front of your face. It rotates. It's part of your eye of insight, or your third eye, or your brow chakra. And in moving energy up your spine, or up the kundalini channels, like from the lower vibrations to the higher vibrations, when we get to the level of indigo, so we've got, play my piano, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, we're at the level of your brow. And then if we went further, we'd go, violet, I'm at the crown at the top of your head. White light, I'm into the next dimension. So we have not gone all the way if we are only up to the level of the indigo brow chakra. A great deal of insight happens at this level, but if you're not yet connected to the crown, the highest level within your human octave, then you're seeing on the level of anthropocentric interpretation. And anthropocentric means human-centered. Human-centered. You're looking at the world from the viewpoint of a person who owns one face and two arms and two legs and expects everyone else who's got intelligence to look the same way. One face, two arms, two legs. It's so limiting, I can't even begin to describe it. And it's erroneous, it's misguiding, because intelligent life is evident on your own planet, on Earth, but not in the shape of what you expect if you are anthropocentric. So this is like saying, if you look at a one-celled organism, an amoeba or a paramecium, there's intelligence there, but there's not a face and two arms and two legs. With the great hubris of humans, humans are not able to see and perceive and recognize the intelligence there, or the intelligence of a tree. Where is your face? Where are your arms? Where is your legs? Though it's quite amazing. I live in Northern California. There are these beautiful redwood trees, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here. When I first visited the area, these trees grow these reproductive parts at the lower levels, like where we're walking around. They're hundreds of feet tall. These burls, they're like large outgrowths that look like gnarled faces that grow at the foot of the trees. And when you walk around, you can really see faces in these burls. They are symbols, like the symbols on the washroom door. They are trees literally trying to communicate to anthropocentric humans, like, look at us. We have personalities. We have a sense of individuation. We have a sense of self. And the face is a very deep program. It's not only in your perception and your belief system, it's programmed in on a neurological level. So just like you calculate the world by looking at right eye versus left eye, there are specific neurons that science has discovered and measured that are specifically designed to create and understand and interpret faces and see faces everywhere, okay? This is part of how you begin to interpret intelligence and interpret the world around you as having intelligence. And since I'm on the topic of being anthropocentric, or so focused on the human form that it is difficult to see or perceive intelligence in other areas, we also have to talk about scale, both scale of the physical size of your body and time scale, because the anthropocentrism is not just about, do you have a face and two arms and two legs? It is about, how long is your lifespan? The idea that it can be difficult to have a conversation with an insect that might only, live for a brief amount of time. And, if you live 100 years, how can you have an effective conversation with an insect that might only live for a minute or an organism that only lives for such a short amount of time? And also, how can you have an effective conversation with an organism whose time scale or lifespan might be dilated to millions or billions of years? And this is what we are experiencing in the challenge of communicating with the stellar network. So the stellar network includes not only our own nearest star, the sun, who's named Sol. It's why we live in the solar system, but also every star. So consciousness is non-local. This is like saying you can talk to someone who's far away, even if they're not close to you. And this might be something of a revelation or a new idea, because humans right now have really been programmed into this type of literal interpretation of the world, that if you are not in your physical presence, that you're not affecting other people. But this is not true, because we are all vibrating strings. And when you're vibrating, you're emanating, you're sending things out, you're sending out these vibrations, and they are interacting with other people and with other vibrations. So this has to do with cosmic ethics or interdimensional ethics and what brought me here, why I am here. So I came into this physical body. If I didn't come into this physical body, it simply would have decomposed. The previous person who lived in this body died. And it tends to be a very dark topic, because people look at death as a personified being who, hunts you down and kills you. I am also, when I draw pictures and I use pictures in order to teach, I draw the membrane of death. It is a flowing membrane that separates one area or realm from another area or realm, just like the cell membrane, just like your ego. And the flying rainbow lasagna is a tool for dissolving membranes without cutting them, or making membranes porous without cutting them, or overcoming blockages, being able to shift or go up and over and around something that is in your way. So I came into this physical body by making the DNA vibrate in a particular way. It's the flying rainbow lasagna dance movement. Got the cells of this body doing the flying rainbow lasagna. And everyone else is playing their own particular song. Someone's playing this over here, someone's playing this over here, and I come into this world and I'm playing this. And these notes are affecting all of the other instruments and musicians that are here in the great orchestra. It's the way it's supposed to be. People have a great deal of ethical considerations. If you want to be a vegan, you're saying, or there are even people that are more extreme than ethical vegans. There are people in the Far East in India who practice a religious practice where they literally do not want to harm any life. And they will wear like a little surgical mask in front of their nose and mouth so that they don't accidentally breathe in an insect. They won't eat anything that isn't part of like the natural life cycle. Like you can eat an avocado that has naturally fallen off of the tree and would just rot if you didn't eat it. But you're not allowed to, like, say, dig a carrot out of the ground and eat that root, because you're killing the carrot by eating it. So this particular group of religious extremists, they value life and consciousness so much that they do not want to harm it, and yet they need to somehow sustain their own consciousness. And this is the challenge of being here. A brief pause while I save my work. We are all here affecting the world or the context that we are in, and the context affects us. Just by being here in the physical realm, you have a footprint. You have an energetic footprint, like even if you don't speak or say anything or go anywhere or do anything, you're emitting. You're emitting thoughts, you're emitting feelings, you're emitting your own baseline vibration. And guess what? You're allowed to. This is the lesson or the story of the first chakra. Red at the base of your spine. And I had to learn this story as a walk-in. I had to say, I'm allowed to be here, because there was a very large biological and social program that said, you're not allowed to be in this body, or a social program that says, you're a visitor from another world, you're not allowed to be here. So the first couple of years that I was here, it was very difficult for me to integrate my energy with just the earth cellular body. And then it has been a challenge, like after the first 2 years, and I started to interact with Earth society more, how to integrate my energy with Earth society. And all of this has to do with, the consideration of being a visitor here, being not the original inhabitant of this body, why I'm allowed to be here, what is an allowed thing, what is a not allowed thing, or who's a welcome visitor, who's not a welcome visitor. This all matters. This is like, are you going to rent out your planet like some kind of an Airbnb, a bed and breakfast? Come visit our planet, live in our bodies, eat our food, and then go. Like, what is the ethical way of doing this? So I'm telling you that my consideration to come into this body was not capricious or something that was not well considered. It's a big task when you come into a body. It's not like going on vacation or something that you would casually decide. It is a big commitment. And the cells of the body, the physical matter of this body, had to be changed in order to accommodate the new Flying Rainbow Lasagna song. And I am like a template or a new example or a model of what can be done with your very own body. So because of interdimensional ethics, I don't force this on anyone else. I don't tell you, you have to be like me, or you have to be like the lasagna, or you have to do this or else you're going to die. That's not love. Love is saying, hey everyone, look at me. I'm dancing like a flying rainbow lasagna, and if you're into it, you can do it too. And this is what I have been doing for about the past 15 years. So I wasn't always articulate with words as I am right now, which allows me to be on the radio, which is wonderful. When I first came into this body, I was dealing with a lot of the neurological disruption of what killed the previous occupant, because people don't just die of nothing. When you die because you have damaged body parts or something isn't functioning correctly. And so in the case of this body, there was damaged neurology in the brain. And it was a big challenge for me to come in and be able to integrate in a coherent sense into a body that was damaged. So I can tell you what allowed me to do it was a couple of things. An energetic matrix, like a net, if you can imagine a net woven of very fine white thread that connected all of the nuclei of my cells of my physical body directly to the source of consciousness and love and vital life force energy. That was placed on the body after the original consciousness left the body, because if you don't do that, the body decomposes and dies. And it gave me enough time, like it took many, many months in order to be able to integrate my energy into the body. So the cells had to be kept alive, and all of the processes and metabolic processes had to be kept going in transition. And this is good information for you to understand, because many people are looking at the world and they're expecting a total end of the world, a total destruction, so that something new can rise in its place. The idea of the Christian Armageddon or apocalypse or end of the world where rivers of blood must run, and then a benevolent Jesus comes out of the sky and fixes everything and there's a golden jubilee. That's a very erroneous and destructive program that we don't have to run anymore, which is why it's like I'm telling you what the symptom of the disease is, and now I'm giving you the healing so we don't have to have that symptom anymore. You don't have to go through total destruction in order to have renewal. You can have peaceful transition from the way things used to be, the way the function of the material world used to occur, into the new processes of how the world will function in this new realm. We're moving out of the realm of pure objective materialism, or saying that matter is just matter that is not imbued with spirit and consciousness. And we are moving into the new dimension that we are giving birth to, is matter that displays aspects of consciousness or responds to consciousness. And we've been in transition for about the past 15 years. So the human body has always responded to consciousness. However, there's been a time lag. So between the time when you think a thought like, when I grow old, I will have back pain, and when you actually develop that back pain, it might be many years. So it's not like an instantaneous, I will develop back pain and then back pain shoots through your spine. It's not like that. It wasn't like that, but now it is becoming like that. because we have accelerated the manifestation process of mind to matter. And this is it, just like in giving physical birth in the mammalian world. Birth contractions get closer together as the birth gets closer and closer to happen. The process of manifesting is getting faster and faster as we are giving birth to this new dimension. And eventually, when the dimension is born, when we occupy it, our thoughts will be instantaneously manifested around us. So we are in training right now for that eventuality. And we can also understand this as the process of ascension or reascension, because we are coming from a time in what humans would call prehistory, when we did have these capacities. And then we lost these capacities and have been on the journey of what humans call human history for about the past 10 or 20,000 years. And we are about to transition into a new era. We don't have to destroy everything from the old era in order to have the new era come about. So that means you don't have to, let's say, destroy all technology through a giant electromagnetic pulse bomb, which is what some people fear, or solar flares, frying everything, and then having to pick up the pieces and stumble through life as you begin the transition back to having full psychic powers. Oh, no, no. Ah. And people are afraid of that because that is what happened at the end of what is known as the culture of Atlantis. Atlantis was that prehistorical, worldwide sophisticated culture of people who were completely telepathic, who ate pure sunlight, who were galactic citizens, like connected to other times and places through their mind and consciousness, and able to perceive and share ideas with those other times and places, and not having to kill in order to sustain their own life. That is the big thing here. That the guilt, that the collective guilt that everyone is feeling down here in the material world right now, because you have to kill things in order to serve your own life. In order to be alive, you have to kill things. And this is balance, and it is part of what we are experiencing is the life lessons at this level of density. However, we're moving out of this level of density, and it's not happening over the course of many generations. It is happening within this generation. So, in terms of changing your genetic code, a lot of people think if you want to change your genetic code, what you have to do is you have to change your sperm, change your ova, and then have sex and make a new baby out of that sperm and ova, and then that new baby will have a different genetic code. That is one rather laborious, like long way around way of doing things. You can change the genetic code of each one of your cells of your adult body, not just your reproductive cells, and transition in this body in this lifetime. So I'm also telling you this because a lot of people think that in order to achieve an exalted state, that you have to die and be born into a new or better body. And you don't have to die in order to achieve your exalted state. You can do it in the body that you're in and with the equipment that you have, and you do not require any artificial technology around you, like no computer chips, no injections, no molecules. You don't have to eat monoatomic gold in order to achieve these things. And all you need are your consciousness and a set of ideas and vital energy or chi or prana or life force energy. And these are all things that you are in ownership of all of those things already. No one gives them to you and no one can take them away from you. And I'm just redirecting a little bit because I wanted to remember to tell you the methodology that the flying rainbow lasagna can dissolve boundaries or make boundaries porous. Because this also has to do with the boundary of the present moment now, separating the past from the future. And all of this has to do with your genes. Your genes are like a timeline that connects you to your ancestors and what's going on in the past, and also to your descendants, to the people that will go forward in time. And even if you don't biologically reproduce, you are still connected to the people that will come after you, that will go forward in time. And we are connected through consciousness. We are connected through ideas. So this is getting to be very, very explicit here. But even though our bodies, like you are listening to my voice on the radio, I'm not physically touching your body. I'm affecting the cells of your body. I'm affecting you with my vibration. I'm affecting your genetic material on a deep level. I'm affecting your mitochondria. If you're not familiar with what they are, these are like the tiny organisms within the organism. Mitochondria, way back in terms of development and evolution, used to be individual cells or individual bacteria, and they developed a symbiotic partnership with our cells or with the cells of larger multicellular organisms that were developing, and they work in partnership with what you would consider the larger being. And mitochondria has its own DNA as opposed to the DNA that is expressing like the lineage of your human ancestors. Oh yes, this is getting very complex. Rearranging your DNA. So the genetic squashing or degradation. This is what happened between 10 and 20,000 years ago when there were invaders of consciousness. So if you are stuck in literalism, if you are stuck in the objective materialistic viewpoint, and you think, I'm afraid of flying saucers coming out of the sky, clank, clank, metal spaceships from which one-faced, two-armed, two-legged oppressors emerge with laser beams or whatever they're going to do to shoot you or harm you as a human. You don't have to be concerned about that. You don't have to be afraid. The bad news, good news is that the invasion has already happened. And it happened over 10,000 years ago. And it didn't happen through physical clank, clank metal spaceships. It happened through consciousness. That beings who did not harmonically fit. When I talk about harmonics, I'm talking about the beautiful patterns that either light waves or sound waves or any kind of waves of consciousness can make. Intervals, this is measuring the space between two things and creating patterns out of harmonic intervals. It's like saying, this is a pattern, and it conforms to the larger patterns of energy as it flows in the cosmos. And it sounds pretty to us because it conforms to those patterns. When we make patterns that don't conform to those pretty patterns, it's called noise or lack of vitality or disease, and it results in death. And the human genome before the consciousness invasion was beautiful and harmonic. Literally, there was no physical death. Let's talk about the journey of consciousness. We were created as multicellular organic containers for consciousness. So the human body was created to be a container for consciousness. And you weren't supposed to lose your connection to the source or the divine higher consciousness that you emanated from just by coming into the physical container. You're supposed to keep that connection. It's like saying, come into the physical realm, but you can still talk to the source, and the source can still talk to you. And about 10 or 20,000 years ago, the shape of human genes was changed, and it made your antennas go out of tune, so that you weren't playing beautiful music like this anymore. You weren't perceiving beautiful music like this. And that is when humans lost their higher psychic faculties. They lost their connection to the source. They lost their capacity to eat nothing but pure sunlight and to live in a peaceful, harmonic realm where you didn't have to take another being's life or life force in order to stay alive. So when you eat light, you connect your crown and brow chakra directly to the sun, which is part of the stellar network, or you can connect directly to the stellar network, and you draw in that energy, those photons of light and consciousness, which are also emanations of timelines and awareness, and you ingest it on a level of consciousness. So ordinarily, if you are not capable of doing this, chloroplasts, chlorophyll, and plants become your intermediaries. They talk directly to the sun and to the stellar network, ingest photons, and turn it into things like physical materials and starches and sugars that you can actually put in your body and make your body go. When you reprogram your genes, you redevelop the capacity to connect to the sun directly. We were created to be closer to photosynthetic organisms than what we actually are. And science recognizes that we maintain a vestigial sense of this, the capacity to create vitamin D. So when you expose enough of your skin and your epidermis to the physical sunlight, UVB rays, your body produces in response vitamin D, and vitamin D is an essential nutrient for the healthy structure of your bones and skin and other aspects of your body. So I think I've spoken about this before. If you grew up in a cave and were never exposed to sunlight, but you were given plenty of food and water, you would grow in a deformed sense. Your bones would not be able to structure properly because you need light in order to grow and structure your body properly. And so this is just one example. I've also spoken extensively about some people have cultivated themselves yogis and masters of the Far East and saints. They're known as saints in the West. Therese von Neumann in Bavaria. And these are people that have learned like an individual athlete, not like training as part of a club, but just individuals who learned how to return to eating light. And I think there is a movement now called the breatharians, which is very similar. It is the idea of sacred breath instead of using an intermediary to ingest your chi or your prana. You draw it directly from the source. Anyway, this is how we were designed, to be completely clean burning engines who do not develop byproducts like heat and heat, free radicals, and karma. And the idea of karma, I'm not actually speaking about it the way that it has been religiosified. I am speaking about it in the sense of a debt. Like you eat a chicken and you get a chicken's worth of debt, and then you have to deal with that because you ate a chicken. And so the most joyous way to deal with the eating of food and ingestion of nutrients at this point is to understand that every sensation that you're having is an opportunity to create a recording of the analog experience of having a physical body that can then be accessed at any time, even if you no longer have a physical body or even if you never had a physical body. So I use this analogy. My friends in Woodstock, New York, who are foodies, and they made beautiful fried chicken for a gathering one time. And I don't usually eat food like that because that's kind of, not that healthy, fried in lard and everything like that. But I said, I am going to eat this piece of fried chicken and totally memorize it so that when I no longer am a human with a tongue and taste buds and mouth parts, I can still remember this and say, yeah, this is what being a human was all about. And just as a brief tangent, I shared that analogy with a person one time who's a vegan, and they were like, why would any sophisticated, future version of yourself or, a person from another star culture, why would they want to experience teeth tearing into flesh and, the death and all of that? And that is judgment that is being placed upon these experiences. And when you love, brief pause. When you love, you are in acceptance and you accept the needs or, the physical requirements of the body. So when you love a dolphin, you don't try to feed it like, a soy hot dog. Dolphins are made to eat raw fish. You love a dolphin, you feed it a raw fish. And so a dolphin would joyfully eat the fish and record that analog experience. And then if a dolphin wanted to feed you and fed you that memory, you would feel pleasurable sensations. You would feel what it feels like and how good it feels like to be an aquatic mammal eating a fresh sardine while you swim around in the ocean, which feels wonderful. So you got to get out of your anthropocentric filter. And this is part of my experience of being a walk-in. I was not a human-shaped person. And so I have a good, I can contrast what I've experienced as opposed to what I experience here in the mammalian human realm. And it's very strange. I can tell you, when I first came into this body, as I walk in, I simply tried to eat nothing but pure sunlight. And I didn't understand the rules of this realm. That's why I say we are in transition, and to be loving and kind to yourself and to your physical body as we're in transition, because I was being very abrupt. I thought, this is what is to be done in this time and place. I didn't know that it would take time to build those capacities. So let's speak about how we build those capacities, and also how to perform the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is an energetic dance movement. And just like anything, the aging process is also an energetic dance movement, and will apply the same template. The way you learned about the aging process was, first, you observed other people experiencing it. You observed people moving through time and having their bodies become more decrepit. And you also might have observed, like, an old person bends over and then they say, ow, my back, and then they straighten up. And then these are deep, beyond verbal programs. These are nonverbal programs. You internalize and you say, when I am that age, I will bend over and say, ow, my back, and then straighten up. All of these things. Humans do it by modeling skin texture. You look at someone who is 57, you say, this is the skin texture of a 57-year-old person, and internalize that, and then say, when you are 57, you will also have a similar skin texture. And if all you are shown in your family and your society are examples of people who became more decrepit and less vital as they moved through time, then you will accept that program as just a normal program. So you observed by, other people aging, then you learned about it intellectually. The intellect is like the window dressing or the curtains, and the energy is what is actually happening. So you learned, the aging process, this is what happens, and then it becomes cemented in the belief system. So in order to change this, we need to change it on an intellectual level. We need to give you a new, quote unquote, software program. And when you begin to run that new software program, it actually changes, quote unquote, your hardware, your physical functioning of your physical body. So the first thing, the idea that I'm giving you, the software program, is the Flying Rainbow Lasagna exists. It is a shape, and it is a shape that is made when you apply a new dimension, or the next highest dimension, to the present dimension that you are experiencing. So you're presently experiencing your genes being supercoiled into the shape of a donut or a torus. Your non-physical energy body, like your aura, would be also described as being toroidal in shape. Earth's magnetosphere is the shape of a torus. The heliosphere that surrounds our entire solar system and interpenetrates all of our planets is the shape of a torus. Same thing with the shape of our entire galaxy. If you look at the emissions, the vibratory emissions of the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, it's shaped like a big, giant, fat donut. And when you apply the next highest dimension to the donut shape, you make it dance or vibrate in a higher dimensional state, the shape that it makes is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. If you are not familiar with what a Flying Rainbow Lasagna looks like, I invite you to go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com. You can see many examples of it there. You can also just look at the ucy.tv banner, the graphic for this Birth of a New Dimension page. There's a big, very prominent Flying Rainbow Lasagna there. You can also go to the Birth of a New Dimension homepage and check out the Twitter feed for @BirthDimension. I have several examples of both my original artwork and sculptures and animations there. You can also go to YouTube and just Google the conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. That's an original animation that I created. Pictures worth 1,000 words, animations worth 10 trillion words, because it shows how the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape is the end result of a movement of many overlapping shapes. So if you were to look at like a person throwing a baseball in a multiple exposure photograph, it would look like they had 1,000 arms, but they have one arm moving through time. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape is the end result of energy moving through time. So it might look like there are 8 separate portions or lobes that make up the lasagna. These are one thing that is moving through time. And the one thing that is moving through time is the singularity. So science describes the singularity as the place at which all of the laws of physics no longer make sense. I describe it as the 0th dimension. 0, not because it is worth less than the other dimensions, like, the 10th dimension is worth more than the first dimension. Nothing like that at all. Ha ha ha, right? The 0th dimension is infinity. And it is named 0 because it requires 0 amounts of information to describe a person or thing or a position in the 0th dimension. Everything is there. Every molecule, every possibility, every probability, every timeline, every piece of consciousness, everything that ever was, could be, or will be, is all there, all compressed and overlapping in this tiny little space. And science imagines that and describes that as what existed before what is known as the Big Bang, the spontaneous expansion or explosion of potential into matter, right? So the singularity is one thing. There are many doorways that lead to that one thing. So if you can imagine the room that you're sitting in as you're listening to this broadcast is the singularity. And there's a lot of people there. And imagine, you can have 10,000 windows. You can have all of these different ceiling apertures, floor apertures, ways to get into the room. But it's one room. And each one of us has a doorway to infinity inside of us. Each star has a doorway to infinity. Each nucleus of your cells, and there's more than 1 trillion cells in one body. So just in you, there are more than 1 trillion singularities, because every atom has a singularity at the center of it. We're talking about many different doorways or windows or apertures that all lead to the same place. Infinity. And infinity, so this is by its definition, there's only one of these things. That's why it's called the singularity. The profound insight is, if we say there's only one of these things, but it's in all of these different places, it's all connected. So the singularity that is inside of me is the same singularity that is inside of the sun or inside of any of the stars on the stellar network. And it's the same singularity that is at the center of the nuclei of all of my cells and the atoms, at the center of all of the atoms that comprise all of my molecules. And when I understand that software program on a very deep level, I can make a connection between the singularity that is within me and the singularity that is within any other person or living thing or place or concept or group mind. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a movement of the singularity jumping back and forth. I can jump it back and forth between like me and the sun, or me and another person, or I have jumped it back and forth between me and members of Congress. I'm like, Congress, you gotta get your heads out of your asses. I'm gonna Flying Rainbow Lasagna with you so that you will embody some of this energy of freedom and higher perception. And again, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is not something that I impose upon other people. I offer it to you. So it is dancing. And, like it takes two to tango. It is much nicer and better when you have voluntary, consensual dance partners. And that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years as I've been here. I have been inviting and creating consensual, telepathic dance partners of energy in order to embody and spread the Flying Rainbow Lasagna on Earth's surface and throughout the galaxy. So the DNA within your mitochondria, your mitochondria are invited to vibrate according to the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And same thing with the DNA that is at large in your body, and same thing with your overarching energy structure, and same thing with the planet. Planet is already vibrating like a Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And the significance for this is that it brings together two formerly divergent realms. So we used to have this membrane that divided up your world of thought and your world of experienced matter, or experienced things that you can feel with your five senses. And the flying rainbow lasagna jumps the singularity back and forth between those two formerly divergent realms and blends them together. It's like saying we used to have the color red on this side of the wall and the color blue on this side of the wall. But we jumped back and forth so much that we blended blue and red together, and now we've just got violet. And this is what we're doing. We're putting together spirit and matter into a new world. And the new world is made of a type of matter that expresses consciousness. It is like taking a molecule of blue and a molecule of red and putting it together and getting a molecule of violet. So the changes that are going to happen, we are presently in physical bodies and we're having this experience of the physical realm. There's a whole realm of non-physical consciousness that we are going to come together with. Brief pause. We need to do this in a way that is respectful and benevolent and loving and Ubuntu, or it's an African word meaning what is good for all. So, I came here to this realm. Where did I come from? I have to do a brief explanation on that. People ask me, Aurora, what planet are you from? It's a lighthearted question. I like to be lighthearted. However, it's not accurate on its basic level. I don't come from a physical location in space. I come from a telepathic collective of consciousness. So to ask me if I point to the night sky and say, where do you come from? Up there. I come from another dimension that is not physical, where I am in abstraction. Meaning I don't have an anthropomorphic form of one face and two arms and two legs. I'm made of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. And I am connected in a community of other beings that are also abstractions. And we share energy. The sharing of energy is like making a musical tone. And that tone is called unconditional love. We send love back and forth to one another like beautiful instruments in a symphony, and we travel the entire cosmos from star system to star system on wings of pure love. This journey is not a technological journey. So we don't have a clank metal spaceship. It's also, when I say love, this is all about your personal freedom, personal sovereignty, and allowing others their own personal freedom and sovereignty. So we work together like an organism. You're a multicellular organism. Your heart cells don't fight with your liver cells. If they do, we call that a disease. I come from a consciousness collective that is healthy. We are not diseased. We might have individuation, like the heart specializes in pumping blood, the liver specializes in filtering blood, and each performs their specialization. However, we recognize that we are a part of the totality of consciousness. It's like being a highly trained musician or artist collaborating and playing music with other highly trained musicians and artists. And you play when it's time to play, you rest when it's time to rest. Good musicians listen to other musicians when they're playing. They don't always try to just play and overpower them. It's literally, I'm describing the metabolism of a healthy organism. And it's a non-physical organism. I'm also not an invader. I'm not like someone who decided I'm going to snatch a body or come into someone who doesn't want me in there. Not at all. I can't go into all of it, but I can say that there was an agreement or a soul contract between myself as an abstraction and the person, the physical human who used to have this body and who grew up and, went to grade school and learned how to walk and talk and was an infant and wore a diaper and everything. That person and my consciousness had an agreement that this was not like something that I forced or imposed upon them. This all matters because we're talking about being artificially separated from the source, developing a temporal ego, and then what happens when you reconnect to the source. The ego has been programmed to think you're nothing. You're nothing but a lowly sinner. You're a dirty, disgusting, human, burping, farting, and you're not like a beautiful, peaceful, serene angel or a pure, angel from above that doesn't have sex and, poop and do all body processes that humans have been told make you lower and less. With this coming together of the two formerly divergent realms, humans with physical bodies should be reconnecting with the source, with their own higher self. So I have to go on this brief diatribe for just a few minutes The idea of being a channel or being a conduit for some other ascended master other than you, I recommend against it. Against. This is your body, and having a body is like having a wonderful first row seat in the physical realm, or like having a really great apartment located in Manhattan. Now, everybody wants that apartment. And there are tons of non-physical, non-corporeal beings who would love to be active on the physical realm or active on Earth's surface right now. Like they would like to pick up and move objects around, say words that other people can hear, write things that other people can hear. This is how you do things instead of just being a ghost that no one can hear and you can't move any objects and can't get anything done. So if you want to get stuff done, you got to partner up with someone in the physical realm. You as a physical person, you should be partnering with your own higher consciousness, yourself as an ascended master. Each one of us has that potential inside of us, and it has always been this way. The graphic representation of your life, the timelines of your life, always include that path of least likelihood, the infinite pathway that goes from your birth and continues onward through the singularity to infinity. That's what we are all cultivating and aiming for. That is when we become an ascended master and we transcend the limitations of this physical realm and go into the next highest level, or we get out of this electron shell and jump into the next quantum level at the subatomic realm. Each one of us has the potential to be an ascended master. So if you are not Saint Germain and you're in a physical body and someone named Saint Germain wants to come into your physical body and speak through you and write things, I have to tell you, it's probably not Saint Germain, because someone who really is an ascended master isn't trying to come back. They have already graduated. They might look back over their shoulder and give excellent advice, like the way a person who has already graduated might return and speak or teach as a teacher's aide to the people that are still in class. However, they do not need to be in your body. So this whole idea of channeling, the idea that a human conduit is going to allow some non-physical being to have access to your vocal cords for a certain amount of time so that they can say what they want to say through you to the rest of the world, that's unhealthy, disrespectful, and unloving. Your own higher self as an ascended master should speak through you. And that's really like saying the source of consciousness should speak through you. And the source is abstract. It's not shaped like a human or a tree or a dolphin. So when it starts to come through you, it turns into information that can be perceived by a human or a tree or a dolphin, and that changes it a little bit, but it is not meant to be information that feels like it's coming from another personality. Thank you so much for being with me as we prepare to give birth to a new dimension.